Yeah, let's get started. We might be admitting people as we go, so we'll try to do it on the sly and be as least disruptive as possible. But welcome to our April edition session of Getting Things Done for Managers. It's great to see a few new people join us this week and this month. If you haven't joined us before and you're not familiar with us, my name is, like Glenn said, Joanna. And we, meaning the Enliven Group, we're a business consultancy firm based out of Camberwell, and we are all about productivity in our office. And we bring you these monthly sessions through Getting Things Done for Managers to really give you some tips and techniques to amplify your productivity and for you to take back to your professional and your personal life. And they're all kind of based around and tie into David Allen's book, Getting Things Done. So if you haven't read that book yet, we strongly suggest you do. It will kind of help give you a foundation for these meetups. Today we have Belinda Anderson. Welcome, Belinda. And she is going to be going over a topic called improving productivity using Microsoft Planner and Microsoft Teams. We'll also have plenty of times for FAQs. And Belinda is the director of Belton Consultancy, and she's been providing professional, I'm sorry. She's been providing professional development to the education, government, and the commercial sectors across Australia for over 19 years. She's also known as the training lady. And if you haven't checked out her website, she has this phenomenal free resource full of tips and techniques called the Training Lady. I'll put it in the comments later, so you can definitely link to it and take a look. But it's full of all sorts of just resources and tips and things you wouldn't even think of that you need to know, that you do need to know on Microsoft Teams. So I strongly encourage you to take a look at that. And you'll see in her presentation today that she is just passionate about productivity and helping you streamline your workflow and processes. So it should be a good topic, and I will turn it over to you now to learn a little bit about what you have to say.
Thank you, Joanna.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for having me. Firstly, yeah, I as Joanna said, we're going to go through and just have a look through the whole idea of planner and the whole idea of teams, and also how they can integrate together. So I've got a little preso that I'm going to demonstrate through, and then I will go in and we'll jump into the actual software themselves, and I will show you some of the elements that are in that and some of the functionality that you can use. By all means, if you have questions, I like to kind of go with questions as we go through. So if you want to use the raise your hand feature, and we can ask questions, or obviously use our chat areas through Zoom as well, we can do it through there. But if you're having any questions as we go through them, by all means, please stop me and ask. So I'm just going to launch up my PowerPoint now, and I'm just going to share my screen. So just give me one moment to switch between. All right, we're going to go with All right, so hopefully everyone can see that. If everyone just wants to give me a visual nod to let me know you can see my screen, then that's great. Okay, so as Joanna mentioned, I am director of a company called Belton Consultancy. I've been training for a little on 20 years now. So I'll just give a brief overview about me, because I'm not really a fan of talking about myself. But as mentioned, I love productivity, and I love things within the software that are going to make my workflow easier and make workflows easier for my clients as well. So I'm really, really big on things like shortcuts and that type of thing within any of the programs. I do have a couple of certifications, just as a bit of background. So Microsoft Office Specialist, all that sort of stuff. And late last year, I was thankfully accepted in as a Microsoft in Education Global Training Partner. So it's about 32 global training partners within Australia at the moment. So I do work in education sector and across government and across commercial as well. So as mentioned, I do have a my Training Lady blog. So that's thetraininglady.com, and it does have a whole bunch of free resources dealing with all of the Microsoft programs. I only started blogging about Teams during lockdown last year, surprisingly. purely because so many people switched over to Teams during that process. And so there was a lot of questions online, and I felt like I was answering the same thing every day. So I decided to start blogging about it. But there's about 125 articles on my website, give or take at the moment. So that's there obviously as an extra resource. But the ones we want to have a look at today is that planner and that team side of things. And especially when it comes to the task management side, just want to touch on a few of the different programs that you do have available for you within that Microsoft ecosystem. So first up is one called Microsoft To Do. So this is an app, and again, we're talking about the Microsoft 365 solution, which is that subscription-based solution. So the To Do app is there and perfect for managing your own personal tasks. So you can set up your own lists and manage those on a day-to-day basis as needed. What we're going to look at is that next step. So that's going into Microsoft Planner, where this is really going to give you the ability to manage teams. So you can go in and create your tasks, assign them to other users within your organization. You can track progress, you can track and have priority levels on those. So a lot of different functionality, but it lets you work with that type of functions across a team environment. Obviously, the bonus there as well is that it's going to integrate with all of your other ecosystems. So as we mentioned, Teams. The next step up from that is really going to a full project management based software. So that's where we're going up to Microsoft Project. So I do find quite often that clients were in that in-between part where they might have even been using Outlook tasks to manage their own tasks that way, but they needed that extra functionality, but it didn't quite need to go all the way to project. So Planner has been that in-between process. So it's definitely taken off quite a bit over the last few years, and definitely a lot in the last 12 months. So what is Planner? What is it going to be able to do for you ongoing? So Planner is going to allow you to create your own project plans. Okay, you can have them organized into, I like to call them little categories. They're referred to as buckets. We can assign those tasks. There is charting capabilities, so it will show you analysis of what tasks you have completed, what percentages, et cetera, who has the most tasks assigned to them. You've got all of that ability to kind of track and watch the progress of that. Once you kind of get the idea of how it works, it is very, very simple to use. I can generally run a planner course in about an hour. So it's really quite quick to be able to learn that. A lot of the time at the moment, I just ran one on Friday. I'm running Teams and planner training as in one session. So people want to know how those two fit together. I definitely find that it's compared to a couple of other platforms, which would be similar and you probably heard of before. So things like Trello, Monday.com, I'm finding popping up a lot at the moment, and then Asana as well. And weirdly, all of those will actually be able to integrate into the Microsoft integrations as well. So if you are using those at the moment and you want to look at switching over, you don't have to have that immediate cutoff. You can slowly kind of progress and migrate yourselves over as part of that. So it is included as an app in the business and enterprise level subscription. So if you do have a Office 365 personal level, you're not going to have Planner access. So you would need to be on one of those business or enterprise level subscriptions. I have got a little article on my business website that just talks about Planner a little bit more in depth. So if you want to, you can kind of check that out and get a little bit more detail, or use that as a reference if you're wanting to kind of introduce Planner to other users who aren't here at the moment. Now, how are you going to improve productivity? That's usually the big question. It's the how. Most of the time people can see, the functionality side, but how is it going to work in a real environment? So one of the biggest things is the ability to be able to centralize all of your organization for your team within that one platform. You're not using different platforms to be able to have to jump around. So you're not using Outlook tasks or sending meeting requests, etc. You can actually centralize that all within that one ecosystem. It allows you to set clear deadlines. There's no unsure of when things are due. You've got that functionality built in. Same with the priority. That's all built into the actual planner as well. As I said, you've got that measurement. So we can have a look at different views that we can work with within Planner that let you see where you're up to, what progress you're up to, how active things are, and kind of get a better idea of the scope of that. The other important part is access, is getting access to that platform, so that if something is a spur of the moment idea, or something has come up and you're like, oh, I've forgotten to put that into the plan, you can quickly get access. So Planner is accessible via the web browser, which I'm going to show today. You can also obviously do it on your computer. So web is going to work anywhere. But then you've also got a mobile app. So the mobile app is brilliant. I'm going to show you the mobile app a little later. So I use that on my phone all the time, because I'll think of things when I'm away from my computer and I can just quickly jump on my phone. Let's be honest, we normally have it in our hand anyway. And I can quickly jump into my Planner app, go into the correct plan that I need to add it into, and add that task in, so that later on down the track, when I'm going in through my computer, it's all there anyway, because it's synchronized on that one account. And then, as I mentioned, it integrates beautifully into Teams. So we're going to have a look at both sides of that. Now, when we come into the Teams idea of how that's going to work, this is another one that I get a lot of questions about when I start training. That a lot of people kind of know what functionality there is. They think it's a chat and video conferencing program. That's the two main things that people kind of know about. But they're not quite sure about why they should use it. So they know how they can use it, but not sure why. And again, this all comes down to that centralization, making it so that users are not having to go and jump into multiple different programs every day. I know that I do it because I'm working on a lot of different areas. But when I'm in my Teams environment, I don't have to jump around. I'm not going out into Excel and out into the web and going to find a video that I was referencing and going to open a document and sending that document to somebody for them to make edits. I can do all of that within that Teams environment. And so you can really live in there when you're working within those teams. So yes, it does have the chat and the video. That's great, but you can also organize your meetings in there. Your Outlook calendar directly integrates straight into Teams. So whatever's in your Outlook calendar, you're going to see in your Teams calendar as well. We can share files and we can co-author. I'm going to show you that co-authoring functionality. So I can jump into a document within Teams at the same time as a colleague, and we can be working on that simultaneously. And I can see what part of the document they're working on, and they can see what part of the document I'm in. So that's a really, really nifty little tool that you can use within that Teams environment. Just a little bit of an idea about usage. So Teams really kind of exploded last year, obviously with lockdown. So as of April last year, there was on average about 75 million daily active users on the actual platform worldwide. So that was huge, and I have not found stats for it for this year yet. So I'm hoping that Microsoft will release that soon. But again, I've got a little article there on how to use Teams, so the best way of utilizing that functionality. But we're going to have the bonus of being able to jump in there today and have a look anyway. All right, so why use Teams? As I mentioned, that's normally the big question. So you're going to, again, same with Planner, you're going to be able to centralize that communication. I have one client, they run a lot of exhibitions and they're based out of Melbourne, just like Glennys. And they literally at one stage, I think it was end of 2019 now, they switched over to Teams and they drew a line in the sand and said, from this date forward, we will not be using Outlook email for any internal communications going forward. So they have eradicated all internal email correspondence within the organization. Everything is now run through Teams. Whenever I am working with any of their staff, it amazes me how clean their inbox is, because the only content they're having come through Outlook now is for external parties. So that centralization has really improved their workflow, has improved the ability to be able to share things, and even for them to be able to find content. So they might be after a certain document, and rather than it being potentially in 10 different locations, it's all centralized, it's in their project area. So you can definitely reduce that amount of emails that you have within the organization, definitely within that internal space as well. There are a ton of integrations that Teams now has. I remember when I started using Teams a couple of years ago, there was maybe a dozen different integrations with third-party apps. Now the list is just endless. It just keeps going and going. So there's just so many of them. Things like SurveyMonkey, Adobe Creative Cloud, all of those integrate straight into Teams now. So you can use those elements and those resources within that Teams area. And again, access, getting that access again. So big thing is that you have to have 3 separate access points for Teams. One is through your web browser. So again, anytime, anywhere access, doesn't matter if you're at the airport and jump on a kiosk or whatever it might be, you can get your Teams access. Secondly, you've got an actual desktop app, just like Planner. So that's downloaded onto your computer and runs through that. That's generally my preferred access method because it does give me all of the functionality. So whenever we're talking web access, that is generally a bit of a cut down version of what you would get normally through the full app version. Third access is via your phone again. So when I show you the screen for the Planner app, etc., you'll see that I've got Teams installed on that as well. So again, if somebody's wanting to chat with you and you're actually away from your computer, if your Teams app on your phone is logged in, you'll still get that chat message. You'll still get a meeting request that you can accept. You'll still see any updates to any of your teams that have been made. You'll get all of those notifications through your mobile as well. So again, that gives you that access that you may need. Now I can see that we've got a chat question here. Has Planner been replaced by tasks for Teams? All right, no. So Planner is, I've seen a few questions about this online. Is Planner going away? No, it's not. They've really just rebranded it a little bit for use in Teams, and I will show you that access. It just doesn't give you all of the functions that you would normally get in the Planner app itself. So I will show you the differences between those, but no, it definitely hasn't been replaced by tasks for Teams. So good question there, Fiona. All right, so we're going to jump in and do the demo because let's be honest, that's what we all want to see really. And I'm just going to jump out of here and I will give you some contact details. But again, Joanna mentioned before that we will have all of that within the meeting anyway. So I'm just going to jump out of here. All right, so I now have my Planner app open up here and I've just accessed this one through the web browser. So nothing too fancy here. Let me just go back here and into, there we go, so I can see everyone's faces. Lovely. Okay, so I've got my Planner platform open up now. So my software is open. You can see I've got some recent plans that I've been working in. And then I've got a couple of my favorites here as well. So you can favorite some of the ones that you use most frequently. So I've got my own little one here for my own to-do list. And then I've also got a demo training one that I've got set up here as well. And nicely on this front screen here, you can see, and this is called the Planner Hub. I'm a very visual person. So anything with a good chart, I'm loving that because it gives me that visual rather than me having to actually read content. Who wants to read too often if we can avoid it? So I've got my 2 favorites showing up here. So my to-do list, you can see I've got a little bit of a summary here about what I've got in progress, my not started items, anything that's late, etc. Then I've got my training rollout here, and this is the one I'm going to use as my demo today because you can see I've got a bit of a spread across my tasks in this particular area. So this is my main screen that you will come into in Planner. And this is kind of the one screen that I miss out of Teams. I'm always really honest when it comes to training when there's things that I personally don't like. There's always room for improvement, I say. So there are going to be areas that maybe don't work exactly how you'd like them. And this is one of them. I love the Planner Hub, as I mentioned. You don't see that in Teams, unfortunately. So this is one of the reasons that I do like to come into Planner individually sometimes. But let's go and jump into a plan. I'm going to go into my training rollout plan. And you can see here I've got a whole bunch of tasks that have been set up. You can see that I've got labels on these so they can go in here, there, and you can customize the labels to be whatever you like them to. There's all different colors that you can pick from. But we've got some different views that you can use within this planner. So up the very top here, you can see I'm currently in the board view. And I also have a charts view as well. So if I go into charts here, this is going to give me my stats. Okay, so this is going to show me my overall status that we could see at the start there in the Planner Hub, but then I also can see a breakdown by bucket So in other words, by category. I can see where my priorities sit, how many urgent I have versus how many have that medium priority. I can also see assigned by members. So you can see myself and Tanya in here. And then I've got some a breakdown of what unassigned tasks I had. Sorry, I got tongue-tied then. So you can see a really good overview of that. And it'll let you still see your tasks down the right-hand side here as well. So you can zoom in and have a closer look at specific tasks if that's what you need to do. Now, the other view that you have here is the schedule tasks and the schedule view. And this is very, very much like your Outlook calendar. All right. So it's going to give you a calendar specifically for this project plan. And I'm going to be able to see anything that has been set with a due date is going to show up on my calendar. So this is going to give you a really good overview of, have you assigned too many tasks to be completed on the same day? Are they too far spread out? Can we kind of adjust the timing of these to fit in better with our own schedule, et cetera, et cetera. So you've got this ability to look at the schedule view as well. Now, if I go back into my board view again, you can see I've got some filtering options up here also. So I love these because it's going to let me filter by member. So by who's assigned to a particular task. So I can go into the members drop down and say, okay, I can add new members. But I can just go and get it to highlight all of my own tasks if I want to. So I've just clicked on my name and now you can see my tasks have gone grey. If I click on Tanya, switches it over so I can see that. So it'll let you get a really quick view about which ones are for you rather than you having to go searching for your little profile icon as well. And as I said, you can add members in really quickly through that as well. My filter buttons though, these are awesome. So these are broken up into categories. I'm just going to collapse this first category. So I've got by due date, I've got by priority, I've got progress, I've got by label, by bucket, and by who it's been assigned to, and that's also open. So if I go into priority, I can open that and say, I'd like to see everything that is in that medium priority level. So there we go, everything there is medium. If I switch it back over to important, turn off the medium, nothing is set to important in here. If I go to low, again, nothing is in low. So you can kind of just filter out based on what priority you've got set. Let's say I want to see anything that's currently in progress. I can go and look for the little visual cue. So these are called task cards, these individual items here. And you'll see that some of these have the little circle which is half filled. So that's my in progress label. But if I want to pull all of those out so I can see them quickly, I can go and select that. You'll notice that they still stay in their buckets. So they're not going to just be displayed in one big list. They stay within their bucket area for you. I might want to do by label, as I mentioned. So I've got things here for sales or urgent, but I want to go and see anything where documentation is required. So I'm going to select that one. And you can see I've only got one for this. All right, so it's been labeled with that particular label. I can again do by bucket. So if I just want to focus in on a particular category within my plan at the moment, it might be what I'm responsible for and all of my tasks within there. I can go and specifically pull all of that content out and then everything is hidden. So it does clean up and allow you to focus solely on what you're actually looking at and wanting to look at the time. So I can go in and clear that one out. And then finally, you've got those assignments. So if I want to go see everything that Tanya's assigned to, instead of it just highlighting for me, now it's filtering those out for me. Lastly, we've got grouping. So the default group here is showing us by bucket. So you can see I've got project planning, skills analysis, training preparation, and training. And if I go into group by bucket, I can say, no, I'd really like to group it by who it's been assigned to. So if I choose assigned to, I now have a bucket for unassigned for myself and for Tanya. Okay, so they're all in there. I can go back into my options here and go to group it by progress. So now I have a not started bucket and an in progress and a completed bucket. Again, we've got due dates, labels, priority settings. Again, so you can go through and just change your grouping. I'm just going to switch it back to buckets, just so we've got that there. Now, a little bit in terms of being able to add stuff in here, it's very, very simple. Once people realize how easy it is, then they usually are quite happy to go off and start playing. So if I want to add in a new bucket, each column within here will keep growing every time I create a new bucket, but you'll have an add new bucket option. So I can click on that and type in what I want to call that bucket. It adds it in. And now you'll see that I have, again, a new column ready for me to create new buckets if I need to. Now, if I want to create a new task, again, you can do this in two ways. You can kind of go in and create one task at a time and get really in-depth and set all your settings up with due dates and lists and labels and all that sort of stuff. Or you can quick add. So you can just quickly add in your task, essentially description or name, and then go back as you need to and go and kind of fill in all of those additional attributes that you need to set. So if I want to add in a new item here, I'm going to say evaluation forms, and I can just hit enter, and it's going to add those tasks straight down into that bucket for me. So I'll go evaluation forms, I might go analysis, reporting, follow-up, etc. So I can add in as many of those as I want. So I've got my 4 little tasks in there now. And if you click on any of these, it opens up the full task details for you. So again, I've got the name up the top, but here's where I can go in and start setting all of those different attributes of what I can do within this task itself. So I can go and assign it to somebody. So if I go on and assign, it will let me know who else is in here. So I can assign Tanya straight away. Or I could just go in, and if I had typed in the name, it would have come up with that as well. Here's where I can add in those labels. Now, when I click in that, you'll see all of the different label colors, but you'll also see that I can edit them here. So I could go in and change the gray label, for instance, to read whatever I wanted to. But I'm just going to put in here that this is a client request and it's urgent. All right, so I can go in and add those labels in. Let's say I want to change the bucket that I've put it in. You can drag and drop within Planner, makes it super easy. But if you want to, when you're in here, you can change between the different buckets that you've got set up as well. I can go in and set my progress. So when you're working with Planner, especially across that team environment, you kind of want to come up with some policies of how people should be interacting with the plan. One of them is remembering to set a task that it's now in progress. So I find that that's one people do forget, especially when they've just started working with Planner. But setting that progress status correctly so that it is going to show correctly in your charts and your analysis so that people can see that it has actually started. So I can set that to in progress here. Here's my priority area. So I can go in and set whether this is a very urgent item, whether it's just important, low or medium. Medium is the default option for that. I'm going to go and set this to important though. Now, you've got 2 options here. I can actually specify a start time. If I want it to start on a certain day, I can do that. The other option that you can do is have whoever is assigned to this particular task, they can come and set their actual start date when they start the project or task if you want to. But the other thing you can do is set your due date. So generally speaking, you'll have a due date in mind, and so you can come in here and specify that. So I'm going to go and specify, I'm going to go into next month. So you can see I can browse by months here. And I'm going to go and set this needs to be done by next Friday. So I'm going to choose for next Friday. Now here underneath, I've got a notes area. I can make that bigger or smaller, depending on what you want to do. But this is really good now to put a description in or more detail about what this task involves. You might put in specific details about who is involved with this task as well, whether that's an external party or whatnot. But also really good for just identifying key parts that are related to that particular task. Now, underneath that, one of the great little things you can do in here is a checklist. So this might be, for instance, evaluation forms is my task, but I might have 2 or 3 separate little mini tasks within that I'm going to have to carry out. So that I don't miss any of those steps, I can create a little checklist that's going to allow me to remember and check them off as I complete them. Really good question here from Jenny. Is it possible to have reoccurring tasks? Great question. At the moment, no, it's not. It is a feature that has been requested online. So I don't know if everybody's aware, but Microsoft use a website called uservoice.com. Every single Microsoft app has their own dedicated user voice website. So Planner has one. From memory, it's planner.uservoice.com. And so that's where you can go and request features. And Microsoft actually use that to add on to the programs. So if there's a particular feature such as recurring tasks that you need, go onto that website. You can do a search for the feature that you might want, and you'll actually find that this is already a requested feature. So if you search for recurring tasks in the Planner user voice, you can go and vote for it. So you can add your vote into it. You can even go and put a little comment in. And it will allow you to go in and put a comment about why you might want that particular feature. I think last time I checked, it was like over 10,000 votes for that particular feature. So I'm hoping that they're going to add that in soon. Now, Martin, I have a hand up. Do you have a question? Maybe not. Maybe that's an accidental raise your hand. I've got a few questions in chat, so let me just go back in here. So Glenn, can you create templates for projects you need to create similar projects over time? There's not an actual templates function in there per se, but what I generally do is I will get a client to create their first plan that they want to use as a template, but then keep that as the master copy, because what you can do with your plans is make a duplicate. So you can kind of keep that as your master source, copy that and just give it a new name ongoing, and that will let you keep using that plan over and over again. So that was a good question there, Glenn. Fiona, planner seems to link to the task to the Outlook calendar in Outlook, but not the actual task list, which is confusing. Yes, correct. It does link through to your calendar, but not your actual tasks area within Outlook. I'm not sure why they've done that. I'm assuming there's some technical reason, but I can't give you a definitive answer on that one. But yes, that is accurate. It does do that.
Can I say something here, Belinda? The new app, tasks by planner and to do,
Yeah,
kind of has the link directly to the Outlook task lists.
yeah, it does. Yeah,
And then the planner is in there as well. So your planner, task list that you're creating now sit in there as well. So it kind of puts it all together. What I used to hate is having planner over here and then Outlook tasks over here. That one app seems to.
Yeah, they're trying to bring it more together as they go. And I think because there's so many requests now for where they want people want it to integrate in and work seamlessly, they are slowly just working on getting all of that integrated back in. So hopefully at one stage in the future, it's going to work as one big ecosystem. And it'll, if you create a task in Planner, it's going to show up in all of those different locations at the moment as well.
Yeah, because one of the things I train people to do is not put their little individual tasks in their calendar.
Yeah.
And then Planner went ahead and put it all over there. So
yep.
I didn't like that.
When you say a plan, is that the same as a project, or do projects exist within plans? All right, so when we talk about a plan, so for instance, I'm in my training rollout plan at the moment. The terminology is interchangeable. So either term it as a plan or term it as a project if you wish. Essentially, it's what you're putting all of those tasks within to. So both terms are accurate. Microsoft are just using obviously the terminology plan. So you'll see at the top here it says new plan rather than it saying new project. All right.
Sorry, Belinda, I just wanted to ask, maybe I had some troubles with my mic before.
Okay.
And supposedly you're hearing me clearly now. I wanted to ask how to switch the date from the American way. It's May 7, and we had this issue before. We tried to figure it out in my team. We changed the language to be the Australian standard, but it didn't change the date. So, and it keeps switching from the Australian in different computers, in different browsers, from the Aussie to the American way. Thank you.
That's a good question, and that would be a back-end policy setting. So I don't know the answer to that one straight up, but I can certainly find one out for you and hopefully get something through to you to be able to answer that question. Yeah, I'm not sure why it would be showing one versus the other on different browsers, etc.
Yeah, because it's I just now on yours it's May 7. It's the American way too.
Yeah,
yeah, next Friday. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've got that set just purely because I haven't changed it over, but I'm used to just reading it that way now, so it doesn't really fuss me in terms of the format. But definitely with some users, with clients as well, I've had them comment about the date. So, but I'm not exactly sure how they've changed it over in the back end admin area. So I will find that out for you and let you know.
Yeah, for this reason, I always remind my team members that it's the American way, because sometimes they don't notice. And when it's less than 10, of course, you wouldn't care. You wouldn't really notice unless
exactly.
you see the number. Yeah, thank you.
yeah, if it's less than the 12 months, then you're not going to notice. But when it's the 13th month, you're like, oh, hang on.
A good question from Martin, and I wonder, Belinda, have you seen the date in Planner from your clients expressed in the Australian format? Have you seen that it has been set up that way?
I'm trying to think if it's been in the web app or if it's been in the actual app itself, on the mobile app. I'm just trying to think whether it's been in the US. I'm thinking I know the last people that I worked with last week on Friday, theirs was in US date format, but they didn't have an issue with it being changed over. I don't want to give you a definitive answer on that because I can't think whether it's been in the mobile app when we've been working mobile or whether it's been in the desktop app. So let me just make a note and I'm going to come back to that. All right. A few more questions. Can you add a hyperlink into the notes section of a task? You can. Let's go in. You'll notice it doesn't hyperlink. There we go. Oh, there we go. I clicked out and it does. There we go. So yeah. So you can copy and paste your hyperlinks in, and then that way you'll have all your notes within there. So that's no problems. Does this allow for reminders pop-up email? It's going to show you, you'll get notifications through your email for this. So you will get notifications and in your tasks as well. So like I got an email yesterday because I was playing around with this saying your planner task is overdue. So you'll get little email reminders, etc. for it as well. All right, I'm just going to add in some checklist items. I'm just going to put in some random ones here. There we go. All right, so I've just got some little checklist items that I've put in here. You can adjust the order of these as well. Over on the right, when you hover, you can see you've got this little up arrow that lets you move them around, etc. Why did it just delete? Oh, I made it a new task. Sorry, hang on. Switch it back. All right, let's go back in there again. Hang on. Now, this is a really nifty one. So see how you've got this little checkbox here that says show on card? You've got these for a few different things. You can have the details of your notes or your checklist items showing on the actual card on the board list. So if I have there at the moment show on card, if I close this, see how I can see my little checklist items on my actual card itself. All right, so you can do that. The other thing that you can do is attachments. You'll notice on a couple of my other tasks here, I've got pictures showing. All right, so this is part of the attachments. So all I've done on those ones is I've actually uploaded a graphic, and that graphic I've chosen to show on my card. So it'll show as the little featured image there. If you were to put in, for instance, a document or etc., you can have that show up as well. So I'm just going to go into some files here. Oh, here we go. I'll use one of my little pictures that I got yesterday. All right, so I'm going to go and tick the box for show on card. And now in the background, you can see that my evaluation forms task card has now got that little picture on it as well. And you can go in and do things like edit the file, but you'll notice that on my task card, it says the actual name of the file there. So I can go and edit this, and I'll be able to edit that little text to display. So I'm going to say, there we go, and that changes that for me. But you can upload, so you can put your PDF files up there, you can put Word documents or Excel files that are related to your particular task, and then that way they are all accessible within that actual task itself. Now, underneath that is your comments. So you can leave comments on particular tasks. So let's say, for instance, I've got a task assigned and part of that involves me speaking to a third party and I'm having trouble getting an open communication line with them, for instance. Let's say my due date's coming up. So what I can do is I can go and put in comments. I might leave a comment in there saying what dates I've tried to make contact. I might leave comments in there about dates that I've emailed them, etc., etc. So when I leave a comment, it shows up in the task. All All right, so I can send that, and you can see down the bottom, I've got this little comment has popped in. So anybody within the plan can go in and leave a comment in there. It does date and timestamp it as well, which is quite useful. So a question I had last week was, you know, what if the task is delayed and it's not going to be ready on time? How can we let people know about that? Don't go back to email, which is what we're used to doing for that sort of stuff. Go into the task and leave a comment. And the nice thing is is that date stamp and timestamp. So if I've just tried to call someone, I can say called today at 9:15 and left voicemail. There we go. That's now in there and it's date stamped. So you've got that ability to go in and leave your task details in there as well. So I can close that one out now, and you'll now see that we have that on the screen again. I don't know why there we go. And you can now see a little bit of an overview. So we've got the 0 of 2 checklist items have been completed. I have 1 attachment in there. I've got some comments, so it's going to let you know with that little icon there. I've got my due date, it's in progress, and it has an important status set on it at the moment. It's assigned to tenure, and I've got my labels there. Now, let's say, for instance, that some of these have now been completed. So I've gone in and I want to mark these as completed. You've got a couple of ways you can do this. You can go directly into the actual task card itself and change the progress over here. But your other option that you can do is actually just tick the little circle next to the name of the task, and that's going to complete it. And it does disappear off the screen. So the only items that you should see on the screen at the moment are actually the ones that are complete, that are in progress or not started yet. But it doesn't delete it. So down the bottom of each of your buckets, you'll start to get this show completed, and it's going to show me that I have 1 completed task in there. And if I open that up, it's there that I can go back into it. I can still read the comments. It tells me who it was completed by. You can see the name of the task is now crossed out. So they are always there for you to be able to go back to. So if I scroll back over here, I've got 1 in my project planning bucket that's also been completed, and that's where I identified budget. So that's the majority in terms of what we can do within our tasks and within Planner here. So we're going to go over it now and have a look at our team's environment. So let me just jump across. So Anne, is there a notification for the team within the comments? No. So if somebody leaves a comment, unfortunately at the moment, it's not something that notifies people within that team. Normally what I suggest with that sort of stuff is that you can do that as part of your team's environment. So rather than we're just working in Planner at the moment, we can do that in Teams and just put a quick notification up to say a task has been completed, or you can notify that you've left notes in a task if you want to. I tend to find all of those extra little notifications sometimes when we think that they would be really useful. When you start working within Teams, because you are getting notifications for so many different areas and so many different processes, you'll tend to find that you want to reduce that notification process sometimes too. So it's just a matter of going and having a look at those individual tasks yourselves.
Sorry, Belinda, I just might add something, because with the comment from experience, it sends notification to every team member. I'm just trying to lower my voice because I'm in the office area.
Okay.
From experience, we actually stopped doing this function, leaving comments, because it sends comments to it sends notification to everyone, even to the ones who are not.
So you potentially should be able to turn that function off in your policy. You might have it on.
Yeah.
So you may be able to turn that functionality off so that you can still use the commenting, but that notification is not going to come through.
Yeah, we tried to find this notification to turn it off,
and it didn't come
but
up?
we couldn't. So I just wanted to mention it as an answer to this question. I'm not sure which version is the right one, or maybe we are still couldn't work it out, or but from experience, it sends notification to everyone in the planner.
That does, okay. I'll have to look at that, because as far as I knew, that was an off function by default. Okay, let me have a look at that one as well. Lots of good questions. Okay, if there is any person.
就是西双版纳啊，不西，就是西双版纳周边的去昆明的去西双版纳去
So I'm going to go
那就问了一个什么
into
事情，是要什么东西，然后那个店讲的啊，
all right, I'm going to go into Teams. So let me just pull that across. All right, so this is the Teams environment that we're in now. And I've just got a little bit of a demo team that I work with here. I've got my own team set up as well, but I've got my little training team that I use as a demo for most of my stuff. Actually, hang on, I want to show one more thing before we jump into Teams. I want to show you the mobile app for Planner. So let me just jump into that. All right. So I've just got here my mobile phone, and you can see I've got all my Microsoft 365 apps in here, and Planner is one of those. And then I also, as I mentioned, have Teams. So having those two in there, you can work within those two areas if you want to. So if I go into Planner, it shows me my Planner hub. Now, yes, I'm missing my little visuals, but I've got my list of my favorites, and then I've got my other plans that I've got available there. So again, if I then click and go into my training rollout, it's going to show me all of my tasks that I've got in there. And you can still open your tasks, individual tasks. So if I click into one of those, it's going to show me all of that rundown. So I can go in there and make changes. You can leave your comments. So if you click into add comment, it's going to let you leave a comment within there. And then it's going to let you be able to just keep track of that within the mobile device as well. And we can go back and then go into any of our other ones as well. So that's a really easy one to be able to kind of work with when you're out and about as well. Okay, so Teams app, we're in here now. I've got my Microsoft training team. Few things to just note is the different areas. So for anyone who hasn't used Teams before, we do have our little sidebar down the left-hand side where we can go to our different activity or our chat area. We can view our calendar, etc., etc. Your middle panel here is going to have all the different teams that you're a part of. And these are collapsible, so we can collapse them up when we're not using them. Anything that's got updates in it, you can see is going to have bold text. So it lets you know that there is an update in something to do with that particular team. You've also then got across each of these teams, you have all of your different channels. Channels are there to break up that particular team, or it might be that you've created a team for a specific project and you can break that up into subtopics. So I've got the overseeing team is called Microsoft Training, but then within that, I've got a channel for every single different program within that area. So, you know, I've got a class one here as well. So then channels are broken up into the different topics for the classes, etc., etc. Now, within each of your channels, you also have across the very top of the screen, you have some what we call tabs. And I've got a few extra ones added onto here. So let's go in and have a look at a couple of our other ones. Let's go into OneNote, for instance. Oh, I've got extras added into all of these. All right, I'm going to go into my planner one. So in my planner channel, I have a post, I have a files, I have where I've integrated planner in, so planner tasks. I've also uploaded and put the training notes in there and a link through to a resource as well. So by default, you'll always get a post tab. This used to be called conversations. They've actually renamed it to posts. And this is where you're going to be able to see any conversations that are happening within that particular channel. So you can go in there, ask somebody else a question, respond to questions. You've also got the ability to use your reactions, so you can go in and like things or, you know, laugh, all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of things that have been put into teams that are there to kind of work nicely within a team. So things like giving praise, you can send a praise badge to somebody. You can use emojis, you can use animated GIFs. There's stickers in there. So stickers, think of those like a meme that you can actually customize yourself. So, you know, grumpy cats in there and that sort of thing. And you can go and put your own text in there and send it out to anyone within the team. So they're all there just for feel good stuff as well. It will also have on this post area any updates. So if, for instance, I add a new tab up into this channel, it will come and give a notification to let everyone know. That can be turned off. That's an actual checkbox option when you are adding in new tabs. But if you want to notify people, hey, there's something new has been added in here, then you can definitely just tick the box and it puts it in as a notification for you. My files tab is going to be where everything that is uploaded into this channel is stored. So whether it is that I have uploaded it through the posts area here, it doesn't matter. Okay. Really nice example of where this is handy is if I go in here, I can say, here is the file. I can go and upload a file, no problems, and put it into the posts area. But come 6 weeks later or something like that, and somebody wants to find that file to use it, they don't have to go scrolling back through 6 weeks worth of conversation in here, which trust me can be very long. They can just go into the files tab and it will be stored in there anyway. So your files, you can either directly upload into posts or you can directly put them into your files directories as well. And the nice thing that you can do in here is even create your own folder structure. So you're not kind of just dumping all of the files into that one area. You can divide them up and put them into appropriate folders, folder names, etc., etc. So you can see you can create new documents in here as well. So I can go in and, for instance, create a new Word document. And create. And it will jump me straight into the Word Online app. Now, again, bear in mind, Word Online is, and same with all of the other online apps, is it's a cut down version. So you're not going to get all of the same functionality, and it does look a little bit different. So I've found instances where buttons are in different spots or they look slightly different, etc., etc. But I can now go in here and type stuff in. I can put in headings, all that sort of stuff. Now, when I close out of that document will now be saved into my files area, so I can go and work with that. And it will show up now for everybody who goes in there. So I can have anybody else go in there and say, I've just put the meeting minutes in, go in and check it, make any comments that you might want to leave, etc., etc. Again, you can go and upload. So upload an individual file, upload an entire folder if you want to. You can synchronize this. So you can sync it to your personal OneDrive if you want to. I'm just going to get out of that though. You can copy a direct link to the files directory so that everybody, anyone who has that link can just click on it and come and view your files or download them. You've got your download app option as well. And then you've got the ability here to be able to actually add in a cloud storage account. So if you're using Dropbox or Google Drive or anything like that, you can actually add those in so you can access them through this particular files area, which is quite useful. Now, up here as well, what you would normally have, let me just go in here and find it. There we go. We would normally also have by default the Wiki tab. Wiki is just kind of a cut down version of OneNote. I don't know if anybody's explored OneNote, another fantastic one for productivity. I do have an article on my business website about improving productivity with OneNote. Great for getting those little ideas out of your head and onto paper. Okay, so I use OneNote a lot. But Wiki is just a cut down version of that. You can remove that tab. You can see I've removed it from a few of my other channels because I'm using full OneNote files with those rather than just the Wiki option. Now here I've actually already added in my planner. So if I go into Planner Tasks tab, I am now going to be working with the Planner interface, but within my Teams environment. So you can see all of my tasks are there. And this one here I've created is actually all of the little topics that I normally train within Planner. So I've created that into like a little bit of a course outline. So I can now work with this just like I did in Planner before. You can see you've got your Planner window. We can go in and do progress, all that sort of stuff. I can do my grouping and filtering here as well. I've got my different board options here. I can go into chart view. There we go. Go into schedule if I want to, etc., etc. So I will show you in a moment how we can actually add that. So we'll remove that tab out and then we'll add it back in. Now the other tabs I've added here is one is to the training notes. Now I have put in my files a copy of my 2 training notes. So I updated them this year. So I put the new one in on Sunday because my old one was in there. So what I've done is I can actually link through to that. So if there's particular files that you're working with in Teams a lot and you just want that direct access into it rather than having to go into files and open it up, you can add it as a tab. So if I click on training notes, it automatically will just launch into my PDF file for me. and I can browse through that just like a normal file. All right, so I can use any of these as shortcuts, etc., etc. So really good to have that ability. One of the examples I had on Friday with a client was they have a warehouse. So what they have is they have a live Excel file which has some of their stock management in it, and they have it added now as a tab in Teams so that their warehousing staff can go into that tab, click on the tab directly, and it gets them straight into that Excel file. They don't have to worry about opening the file, etc., etc. The next tab I've got here is directly to a website. Okay, so if you've got resources on the web, in YouTube, whatever it might be that are part of your team that you're referring back to a lot, you can actually add that as a tab into the team. So you don't have to go out to the browser anymore to go and access that particular resource. So this is just a link through to my What is Microsoft Planner article on my website. All right, so nice and easy to do that. Now, if you wanted to do these yourself, let's go and have an example. I'm going to just delete out this Planner Tasks tab. So I'm just going to click on the little drop down, choose remove. Yes, I wanted to, so I don't want to delete the plan itself and all of its tasks. I just want to remove the tab. So I'm going to just hit remove. I don't want to tick the box. So it will get rid of that tab for me. There we go. It's have a look at the ability to integrate with other programs. So we're talking about not only the Microsoft apps themselves, but also third-party programs. So if you click on add a tab, and as I said before, when I first started using Teams about 2 years ago, the third-party or more tab options was, about a dozen or 20. It was really small. Now it's huge. So I'm going to show you through a brief little list of this. So we've got things, all of the Microsoft stuff. So things like Excel, forms, you can integrate lists. OneNote is there, PowerPoint. So if you want to be able to launch straight into a PowerPoint presentation, yep, chuck it in as a tab and you'll be able to do that. You've got Word. You've also got Microsoft Whiteboard. Awesome. It lets you actually use the app just like a normal whiteboard you would, and you can actually have that collaborating with others, so you can allow access for others and they can jump on there and actually write stuff on there as well. So great for brainstorming, that type of activity. What I want to do though is I want to add in a planner, so I'm going to come back to that in a minute. We're going to scroll down though and have a look at the other options. So you can see you've got things like Adobe Creative Cloud, which I mentioned. If you've got assets loaded into that, you can add those into your teams and then you can grab those assets out of there. Things like SurveyMonkey, all of those are in there. Zendesk, you've got GitHub in here. So you've got heaps and heaps of different integration options now. So well worth having a little sticky beak through here and seeing what's possible and seeing if any of the particular third-party apps that you might be using outside of Microsoft are included in this integrations. As I mentioned before, things like Monday.com are in here, so you can actually add Monday.com into Teams if that's what the platform you're using at the moment. And I've had clients do that. They'll add it in while they're doing that whole migration across, so it's not a hard and fast stop here and then we'll move you over in a week, or even move you over on the weekend. You can keep those running at the same time if you want. So I'm going to go back up though, and I'm going to choose that I want to add in my planner. And it's going to ask me what plan. So I can either create a new one from here, or I can go in and choose an existing plan from this team. All right, so at the moment, I can go into Microsoft Training. Okay, that's my only one. All right, so you can see I've got a little checkbox here that was selected to say post this information to the post window. And if I go back into post, it's going to have put that in for me. Yep, there it is, added a new tab. I did that at today at 10 a.m. on the dot. And now if I go into this Microsoft Training tab, that's going to load up my planner. Now, ideally, that's not a great tab name, so I'm going to go in and rename that. And I can just switch that. Now, if you've got things like YouTube videos that you want to add in, I'm just going to quickly show you how easy it is to do that. I'm just going to grab some URLs here. I did a presentation earlier in the year about using Teams in a classroom. So I'm going to put that in there. So all I'm going to do is just grab the URL for that video, and I'm going to go back in here and
thank you again, everyone.
Oh, and it started to play, so let me just stop that. All right, so I've just found the YouTube integration, so I'm going to go and select that. I'm going to add it in. Now it's going to ask me, I can even search directly through this interface here rather than having gone and gotten the link already. So I'm just going to paste the link in though, and it should now find that video for me. There we go. And I'm just going to, again, there's a checkbox to say I want to post it to the channel to let them know that we've added the tab in. And I'm just going to save that in. And so now it's going to automatically put the title of the video in there. And then that way I can switch between. Now I can go through any of my other tabs, but I can switch straight into that YouTube video if I want to. All right, I want to go into my files now. Let me just check my questions. All right, so Anne has the question, can it integrate with SharePoint as our files are there? Teams is SharePoint. So Teams is actually running through SharePoint. If you have a look in your files area here, I've got an open in SharePoint. So this is actually running off SharePoint. So yeah, you can integrate all of that stuff. When you go add cloud storage, you can even pull stuff in from other SharePoint libraries if you want to. So yeah, it all works together. Can any team member remove and add tabs, or are there various access levels? Yep, Penny, there is absolutely access levels. So there are two built-in roles that you can have within a team. One is an owner, where essentially you can do everything. And the other is a member. So if I just go into my team here, I'm just going to go into manage. And you can see it's going to open up and show that I'm an owner of this team and I have one member here. So this is Tanya. So if I drop open the role, I can switch between the two of those. But the other thing I can do as an owner is I can go into my settings and I've got individual member permissions I can either enable or disable. So I can go in here and by default, all of these are on. So any member can go in and create their own channels. They can create private channels, and I'll discuss private channels in a minute. They can also go in and do things like just delete and restore. Quite often for clients, when we're working in a real team, I will get them to really kind of think about that whole deletion idea. Do they want any of their members within that team to be able to delete stuff out? So you can turn off the deletion options and take that permission away if you want to. And if you don't want members being able to create channels, you've got the ability to just directly turn that off. So they're your built-in permissions that you can do on the front end of Teams, but then you also have all of those policy changes you can make in the back end as well. The other thing you can do in your Teams is have guests access. So this is something I get all of my clients to do, is they give me guest access to a particular team within their organization so that I can go in there and answer questions and that sort of stuff. So I can actually go and switch between the different accounts that I have and go in and switch into their particular teams. And again, you can open that up and identify whether you want to allow guest access to, or guests, I should say, to be able to add and update channels, and whether you want them to be able to delete. They're both off by default though. All right, so there are definite differences. What I normally suggest is within your teams, at least have two owners. There's nothing worse than somebody is an owner of a team and they are on leave for 4 weeks and nobody can do anything such as adding new members and that sort of thing. It makes it really difficult. So you definitely need to come up with some type of governance policy on how you're going to work with teams, identifying who can create a team, who is going to be the owner of specific teams, that sort of thing. I have a pretty even split on whether organization allows full access and anybody can create a team, or whether they have it locked down and they only have dedicated staff have the ability to create those teams. I generally find when it's locked down, best approach with that is at least having maybe all of your management team can create a team. And then within that, they can kind of identify who else they want to be able to have as owners and that sort of stuff on there as well. But it's definitely something you need to address going forward, especially if you are going to have open slather and have everybody be able to create a team, which in all honesty, sounds scary, but it is really, really good because it means that that adoption and the uptake of teams is going to be a little bit, I tend to find, faster because they take some ownership of that and they can do those things. Yes, it might mean that in 4 to 6 weeks time, you've got to go do a bit of a cleanup of the teams that have been created called Team 1, Team 2, or Test Team, or Bob's team, or whatever it might be. But you definitely get that uptake because they have the ability then to start playing with the software and getting a little bit more comfortable with that interface. So very good question there, Henny. All right, I want to go back into our files. So I'm just going to go into Planner here. Actually, I'm going to go into Teams because I've got a file in there I'm going to have a look at. So I'm just going to go into files here. I just want to show you the whole idea of co-authoring. So I've got a Word document here that I'm just going to open up. So that's, again, going to just pull me into that Word Online app. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to simulate the whole idea of, all right, so if you have a look down here, there's a little marker that tells me Tanya is right there. And I'm logged in as Tanya on another computer at the moment. And I can see her typing. So the same deal would be that if I start typing within this file, on the other end of that, she's going to be able to see my little marker and she'll see the actual content typing. So I'm going to go in here and do some more typing on behalf of Tanya. So this is really good. Whenever I do a team session, I essentially get everybody in the session to jump into that Word document all at once. So we can end up with, 10 or so people sitting there and all typing something into the document. So we can actually co-author this, whether we're on a live chat at the time or whether we're on a video chat and we're talking about what we're doing, but we can co-author this now with collaboration in mind. So, do we like this part? No, we don't like this part. Do we want to add this bit of text in, etc., etc. The more people that you have in the file, you'll see all of the little markers will pop up the top toolbar here. And every single one gets their own little color. So everyone's colored separately. So you can see the colored markers moving around on the screen and be able to go in and kind of stay away from each other or make it a bit of fun and kind of try and mess with each other's content if you really want to, if it's a bit of a fun session. So that co-authoring is in there. So I can just close out of that and those changes will be made. So you can see that Tanya actually was the last to modify the file. So I'm just going to close out of that account now. And that's now been modified for those two. Now, if we have a look now at the idea of private channels. So you can see I've got all of my channels here. I've got quite a few of them. I've got one for each application, but then I have one for accounts. And it does have a little padlock next to it. This was something Microsoft finally rolled out last year, was the ability to create private channels. So myself, there's obviously myself and Tanya are in this actual team, but let's say I had 10 members in this team. But there's one or two of us, there's 2 or 3 of us that might want to discuss a particular topic within that we don't really want everybody else having access to. So what you can do is create those private channels. And so part of that is that you go in and identify out of the team who you want to put into that private channel. And unless you're a member of the channel, you don't see it on the screen. So it's not like everybody else is just going to see the name of it, but just can't get in. They just physically can't see it on the screen at all. So you would have to go in and add them as a member for them to be able to access that. So the ability to do that is really good. So you've got 2 channel types. If I go in to add a channel, I've got my standard, which everybody can access, or a private channel in there as well. All right. The other thing to note too is that you can have different types of teams. So down the very bottom of this middle panel, I've got join or create a team. So if I go in there, it's going to give me some options. Firstly, I can go and create a team. Now, if you don't have the permission level set up for that on your system, you won't get that option at all. You can join a team with a code. So for instance, I might have created a team and our organization has 100 different teams in here. And so browsing through trying to find the correct one is a bit time consuming. Every single team has a unique code that you can go and grab. and I can send that code out to people and say, come and join this particular team. Or I could, if I had permission, I could go and add them as a member. But so you can join with a code. Now, if there are any what we call a public team, you can go in and join those yourself. So I have one public team within my setup that I'm not a member of yet. And so that's this administration team. So I can just go and add, join into that, and it will add me as a member. Let's just take a second, and I've now joined that. I might sometimes need to give it a little minute for it to pop over on the right, on the left. So I'll just talk about the other types first. So if I go into create team here, I've got a few options. All of your teams are based off what we call a Microsoft 365 group. It's kind of just a security group. Within that group, you have members, etc., etc. So if I were to create an entirely new team within that team's environment, I can go and do that from scratch. It's going to mean that I can go in and add my members in that I want to have in it. The other option that you can do is you might be working on a new project, but the same people as your last project are going to be involved in it. So rather than me creating that entire team and adding all the members in from scratch, I can go and base it off an existing group or team that I already have. So that's a good way of saving some time there. You've also got some templates that Microsoft have made available, things like a help desk team. You've got bank branches, you've got hospital staff, you've got retail for managers, etc., etc. So some little templates that you can work from. If I go from scratch though, my next option is to pick that type of team that I want to have. So you've got a private team you can have. Essentially, the screen that was behind me here, that's going to only show anything public. Private is hidden, and the only way people can get added to that is by an actual owner adding them as a member into that team. The public, as I said, everybody can see them. That they should have a description in there, so you should be able to see whether that's a team that you need to join. But then you've also got this third option, which is only a new type, and it's called our org-wide team. And what this will do is it'll create a new team and automatically add everybody within the organization into it. So it's an instant thing rather than having to go and add every member in. But we can go and just add in new teams, and all you have to do is create a name, put a description in, off you go, you're done. So quite easy to be able to do all of that. So I'm just going to go out of here. Yes, discard that. All right, let me just check if we have any other questions. No, good so far. All right, last few things we want to have a look at, because I'm just being mindful of time, is quickly have a look at the chat. Now, I've only got Tanya in here. I have actually gone and hidden all of my private chats because obviously they're with clients. So that's something you can do. You can click on your little three dots and go and hide them. I can get them back just by going and finding their contact card and going and view that conversation. So your chats though you can have two types here really. You can have a private one-on-one chat, and then you can also have a group chat. So you might have 3 or 4 different members within your team that you want to have a discussion with about a particular topic. So you can do that as well. You can see each of my chats actually has the little tabs across the top as well. So I'm on my chat screen at the moment, but I can also go into files. So you can see I've uploaded files here to Tanya before, got course evaluations, etc., etc. So if I want to go and find those files, again, just like in my team, I can go and access those through this files area. You also have this organization tab. It relies on you having set up all your organization details through Exchange. So at the moment, I don't have that set up, but it will show you an org chart for that particular user. So you'll be able to see who that person reports to, who reports to that person, etc., where they sit in that hierarchy. So that's a way you can view that. And then finally, you've got activity. So I can go in and see whether Tanya has been active in Teams lately, and you can see that she hasn't at the moment. Now in my chat, I can do things like formatting my text. So I can, put headings on here as well, all that sort of thing. I can set importance, so delivery options. Really, you've got 2 other options here, important, which marks it just with an exclamation, you can see there. Your other option is urgent. I always say use this one sparingly. It sends notifications every 2 minutes for the next 20 minutes till that person reads it and responds. So that one can be, every time I show that, everyone gets really excited because they reckon they're going to bombard people with that within the organization. I can attach files. Here's all that fun stuff. So things like emojis, GIFs, the stickers are there, which I mentioned are just pretty much your memes that you can customize. You can also do things like schedule a meeting, and then you've got praise down here, which is where I can send Tanya a praise for maybe saying she did an awesome job on something, and I can customize it and send that to her. Preview and then send that. So just a little bit of feel good content that they've put into the program now, which is lovely. And the graphic didn't work for some reason. So that's your chat. And as I said, you can do your group chat. So when you do your group chat, it's just a matter of adding in the different people that you want to add in. It'll even let you name the group. So you can give it an easy name rather than seeing, 15 names up there all together. You can name it instead. Last but not least, we've got our video calling. So through my calendar though, as I mentioned before, your Outlook calendar is integrated into Teams. So any meetings that I schedule within my Outlook, and I don't use my Outlook calendar for this particular account, it will show up in here. So I can go back here. Let me just have a look. What have I got? All right, let me go the week first. Oh yeah, I'm on work week. Okay, let's go back. See if I can find something. There we go. So there's a little test one I did with a client. So I can go in here. There's my little meeting. So what I can do is go in and join that meeting. It will automatically run my video conferencing for me. Some really neat things that you can do within that. You've got video recording just like we can with Zoom. We can do the nice background effects. So if you don't want the busy background showing, you can put all different background effects on there. We've also got a new option in there for live captioning, which is amazing. It will do voice recognition and it will live caption your entire meeting for you. I always demo that during training because it's really, really, really very accurate. So that's really good. That can be included in your meeting as well for anyone who needs that. You've got your screen sharing just like I am now within Zoom, and then also the ability to take remote control of other users' computers as well. So just like you can again with Zoom as well. I think that's the majority of what I wanted to cover. So if there's any questions, feel free to ask away.
And while people are thinking about their questions, Belinda, I'll jump in and say thank you. What a great introduction to the kind of interactivity between these two platforms. You've given us a really good introduction. I think my kind of new appreciation for the intersection is that it's really content management, publishing and distribution kind of tool that we've got now.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
And I've put Belinda's websites in the chat, and I'll also list them on the event page under Meetup, our Meetup group, if you can't grab them in time. And do check them out. Their resources are great.
Thank you, Joanna.
Belinda, in your opinion, do you think Outlook will become redundant based on what we can now do in Microsoft Teams?
I think it will potentially become redundant internally, but I don't think you're going to lose Outlook completely because we're still going to need that communication. And at the moment, the way that the security networks within Teams, if I'm a guest user in a team, I can't do half of the stuff that an actual internal organization user can do. And so I don't see that they're going to change that anytime soon because that's coming down to compliance and security and all of those extra features. So I don't think you're going to get around that for the foreseeable future, but definitely I can see more and more with people moving over to Teams, less of a reliance on Outlook for internal communications, definitely.
And the other question I've got is the Outlook inbox with directly with email. Is that going to be integrated with Teams? I've heard a rumor.
Look, there might be rumors about it. I haven't heard anything about it. I certainly haven't had any inside tips on it through the Global Training Network, and we do get updates through that. I can't say what's coming because I'm under NDAs for that, but I can say what I haven't heard, and I haven't heard anything about that at this stage. Would be lovely if it would integrate in.
Well, sort of complete the complete the whole cycle then.
Oh
wouldn't it?
yeah, absolutely. You could live in Teams and not have to go out anywhere else, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would be lovely if they did, but I haven't heard anything to say that it's anything coming soon.
Okay.
Yeah. But definitely going, if you haven't used Teams before and you have access to it, it's worthwhile going in and having a play with those two platforms, integrate them in together and kind of see what you can do with them, because the ability to work within those two is amazing. And if you haven't had a go with OneNote yet, please go and have a look at OneNote. I love it. I don't know how often I used to send myself emails with links to different resources that I would find online, or things that I would think of sitting at a cafe on a weekend, think, oh, I didn't do that. So I'd email myself a message saying, do this, do that, or here's a link, or here's a great resource, or go and download this. And so my email inbox just had heaps and heaps of emails from myself all the time. So now I don't do that. I've got OneNote and I've set up my notebooks and I've got them set up so that they are, I've got one for resources. I've got one for my training. I've got one for my own PD. So if I go to an event, I take all my notes and I put them straight into OneNote. I can integrate my YouTube videos straight in there. It's really, 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 really good. So if you haven't used OneNote, by all means, I recommend that you go and have a look at OneNote for sure.
And you can also tag, if you're in a meeting and typing up notes, you can also tag things straight into the tasks as well.
Yeah. And another thing I'm just thinking of too, and this is Teams related, is you can do things like if you get an email in from a third party and that's relating to something you're working in Teams on, you can email that actual email message to your team. So it will show up in the Teams environment. It actually comes up on that first post tab. So there's a whole bunch of little things you can do like that that will integrate all of that content across. I've had clients before who might have dabbled with Teams and they're copying and pasting stuff out of email messages and putting it into the Teams chat. And I'm like, no. That you can email it directly from your Outlook, send it to your Teams channel, and it pops straight in, including the original email message and any attachments that it has on it, so that attachment then just becomes part of your channel. So there's just lots of little integrations and ways that you can work nicely within those different within that ecosystem that just makes it easy to work with. It's definitely worth a little explore. So normally, if I was doing a Teams course, I run that over a three hour period. So it's usually a 3 hour session. So it just gives you a bit of an idea that it's obviously not something like Excel and Word where you've got to learn all those extra features, but geez, there's a lot of stuff and little tricks and stuff that you can learn within that as well. So I hope that gives you a really good overview anyway. So any other questions? I'm not seeing any in the chat. You can feel free to contact me if you've got any questions. I'll pop my contact details over on the share screen. Helps if I had started it from the end. There we go. So my email address is there. As Joanna gave you before, you have got my Training Lady blog website is there. So feel free to go and grab content off there. You can print it, you can PDF it. There's a PDF button there, just PDF it straight out of the website. I've got shortcut lists. So if you're interested in grabbing some shortcuts for Teams, a lot of people think Teams, because it's web-based, etc., that you can't use shortcut keys for it. Oh, yes, you can. So you can go and grab the PDF of those. There's all my training stuff's on the blog, but then all my, how to improve productivity, that sort of content is on my business blog. So you've got those two resources there. Otherwise, I think I'm done. Otherwise, I'll just keep thinking of little things to keep talking about.
Thank you very, very much for taking us through Teams and Planner and everything today. It was really educational. So thank you. And thank you for everybody who joined us today. We hope to see you again next month, where our next meetup is scheduled for Wednesday, May 19th at 9 a.m. again. And we have a guest named Murray Guest, and he will be going over a workshop called Facilitating Effective Virtual Meetings, which is very relevant in our COVID working environment. And he'll also be kind of delving into the side topic of Otter, which is a tool that converts voice to text. So it should be another interesting meetup. We hope you will join us, and we encourage you to join us. And thanks again, Belinda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, Belinda. That was awesome.
You're welcome. Thanks, Fiona.